What is up, guys? Welcome to the Score Esports podcast. I'm, of course, your host, Colin McNeil. With me in the booth is the man, the myth, the legend, Josh Burry.
Hey, what's up?
Wow, you didn't live up to my hype. We got Dennis Gonzalez. He's not even going to talk.
That's all I get.
He's not even going to talk.
Just a laser to your face.
Okay, CSGO master. King of the
No,
Score
that's
Esports
a
CS:GO.
lie. That's just false.
At the Score Esports is true.
I'm better than Dennis.
At what, CSGO?
Yeah,
I'm talking about knowledge-wise. I would like to see you two 1v1. I would like
I'll
to see you
1v1
two
Dennis
1v1.
any day, man.
Everybody's shook of 1v1ing me in the office.
Oh, no, I'm not.
No,
No,
not even.
I know. I'm really bad. I'm fucking
Whether
trash.
it's CS or the rap game, you're going to be defeated in the 1v1.
All I want is competition, man. To compete is to win. You know what else is to win? Doing
What?
a cool podcast. This is actually, guys, my birthday today. Just going to say that. It's not when this podcast drops, but as of recording, it's my birthday. What better present could I possibly ask for than having Matt Trivett, better known as Sadakist, one of the premier voices of CSGO, on the podcast for a count 'em three-time guest.
Repeat.
Oh yeah, he's throwing it up. Josh, let's just cut him in.
Yeah,
let's get to talking.
we're live here. How's it going,
sick.
Matt?
Hello. First off, happy birthday. If I'd known, I would have worn like a little bow tie or something. Maybe no shirts. Really done it up for you.
So after we
Birthday
go
suit.
off air, maybe we can discuss more about the no shirt thing.
We can 1v1 Skype. Speaking of 1v1s, either I want in on that or I want to be able to shoutcast that because I got the rap game and I got the CS.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah.
Yo, you want to make our years? Yeah. please shoutcast the 1v1. I already
Yeah.
Go on, sorry.
Well, I was gonna say between Josh and Colin, and was it Colin? Who else was in on it?
Dennis as well.
Dennis.
Oh,
won.
Dennis was there. Okay, we can make that happen.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no,
I don't want to
bracket.
brag, Matt, but I am technically undefeated in CSGO 1v1s. I demolished my fellow supervising editor who does not play CSGO.
When I was there in Toronto, who was I watching that day? Because that person wouldn't have been hard to beat.
I know exactly who you're talking about.
You were
Bernard.
watching one of our social media editors who fancies himself quite the player, actually.
All right.
You're
Fair enough.
getting called out.
Yeah, Bernard's getting called out. That was some fun times.
Yeah, if you guys are watching this at home and you want to call out Bernard as well, he handles our social media accounts, so you know where to find him.
Please.
All our social media accounts, just hit him up.
All right, guys, it's official. We're doing the Score Esports 1v1 tournament. It's going to be showcasted by the man, Sadakist. We're going to do this. It's going to fucking happen. Please
show
believe
up.
me.
I'll come to Toronto. I'll be in the studio. We'll get some cameras on it for the hilarity. We'll make it a thing.
If we pay you in beer, is that okay?
I mean, that's better than what I get paid most days. So yeah, like that is my currency.
Oh wow.
That's good to hear. So obviously you're in Atlanta right now. We can tell by the lovely branded shirt or jacket you're wearing that you're working E-League. How are things with you just in general, your life?
Yeah, I mean, really good. Obviously, last time I was on the podcast, I was talking about nearly quitting, and things have gotten better. I think Christmas was really good. I was home from sort of the 18th to the 9th of January. I say home. I went out west for a week, but I still visited my brother, so that's still home. Family and all that. Good. I reflected on it a lot. I kind of sat back and just didn't pay attention to anything. Didn't look at social media as it related to CS. Still used my Twitter for other stuff and whatnot. But didn't really engage or even reach out to my colleagues. Just kind of took life on its own. I even tried to integrate myself into society by going shopping with my mom and stuff. And I came to the realization, basically what I was doing was that was my chance to see, hey, what's real life like these days? And then I kind of realized, we got it pretty good. It's pretty awesome. And it was a good reset for me mentally. I think all of us, I wasn't the only one that was at wit's end. And I think that now coming back, everyone's in a better state and it seems more relaxed. And yeah, so far the E-League major has been great.
Okay, that's really good to hear. So in other words, you're not quitting, right?
No. Unless I might get fired, but I'm not quitting.
Hey, I can't see it happening. You guys have been doing a great job, and your desk segments, have been good. It's been enjoyable to see you both on commentary and on the desk, I have to say.
Yeah, desk is different. I don't normally do it, but it's. I think it helps that it's shorter desk segments and they're very streamlined with E-League. So we make very quick points and we don't go off on tangents and get carried away, because that's admittedly when Yanko or Chad go into the depths of the game. That's when I can't really keep up with the conversation. But being observant as to a game I just watched, I can usually make some good points at least. So I think that these desks actually suit me for that, I think.
Speaking of watching the game, some news just broke as of recording that ESL has signed a exclusive English and I believe Portuguese broadcast deal with Facebook for, I think, the Pro League and ESL One, both the events for CSGO and Dota. And you were tweeting about that just a few minutes ago, and I really wanted to get your thoughts on this Facebook platform deal.
I mean, first and foremost, I'm not against companies. We're still in our infancy in many ways and development in many ways. We kind of overgrew ourselves in terms of esports, blew up very quickly, but a lot of the money wasn't there to grow with it. Not to say that it's a bubble in that sense, but to say that it was such a success story that unlike, TV or traditional sports, it didn't work its way into TV deals. And TV deals have as much to do with sponsorship. I'd have to look at the numbers, possibly even more in certain sports. I don't know, but it wouldn't surprise me. And, NBA, NFL, et cetera. We don't really have TV deals. Everything was just on Twitch. That's the way that it was. And look, full credit to Twitch. I love Twitch as much as anyone else. They did for gaming what no one else did. They put esports where it is in many ways. And they've been extremely supportive to streaming, extremely supportive to the promotion of gaming by that token. So I'm a lobbyist for Twitch to be successful as well. However, the fact that companies are going out to look for ways to make money, which was one of the triggering facts to me on Twitter, is everyone saying, "Oh, this is a money deal. Oh, yes, it's a money deal. They're a business.
Yeah.
Like, how do they get paid? How does their production staff get paid?" And I know the ESL production staff has been underpaid before, and I know that they've been struggling to find ways of fixing that and to pay talent more. I think talent's doing okay. I think we're in a good spot, but yeah, it's a business deal. They want to make more money to put on better products. And look, a lot of people are also saying that, oh, well, I'm not going to go watch on Facebook. All right, I'm sorry you're such an elitist that you can't type in a different URL. Like, it's not like you're paying for a different cable subscription, which is what people in the past have had to do for sports. It's what people have had to do for, HBO, Game of Thrones, Netflix exclusive, YouTube Red exclusive. That's the same thing that's going on now. So it's not a big deal to me. And on top of that, we're going to reach new audiences. And I get that, okay, you're kind of being transient and that you're jumping. We've gone from Twitch to YouTube and now YouTube to Facebook. And you could leave some people behind. I think, first off, YouTube had an issue where their UI didn't generate enough traffic to the stream that it should have. I think that the numbers on YouTube are fantastic as a whole. But in terms of navigating the site to find streams, it just wasn't conducive to getting the population driven to the stream. And that was a bit of a problem. And I think that YouTube knows that, but they're very different divisions in gaming versus the actual website. And it was just, that needs some time to iron out. But Facebook, if they can generate it right, we might get whereas on Twitch, we get 50% of people on Twitch are watching CS right now. That's amazing. On Facebook, we might get 0.5%, but there's, how many, I think there's over 1 billion users on Facebook or something. I don't know how many are active, but, we're going to get good numbers with it. And I can say that when I did the World's Fastest Gamer with McLaren, Give Me Sport picked it up. And Give Me Sport's a site that they post little snippet videos of soccer highlights or even like Saturday League stuff or crazy tackles. They just have a really good interaction. But when they do live stuff, the World's Fastest Gamer, which I wasn't sure what the viewership was even going to be like, but I'm a racing fan. I signed up to do it, no problem. That got huge viewership. We're talking, 200, 300,000, which is big for what they were doing and also on par with most of average CS. Not saying that ESL is going to hit that number right away, but the point is it's entirely possible once you get people generated to the site. And on top of the site, you're not just going to have the streams. ESL is going to be able to use that same platform that's generating the stream, the same page, to put up all kinds of promotional pictures, graphics, stats. So it kind of almost brings in a Twitter aspect in that sense. So I'm for it if they can make it work. And look, if it's a money deal, great, so be it. They need to make money. It's a business.
No, and that's the other thing too. Like the money. A lot of competition in esports is something that's kind of lacking in the broadcasting field. And so having more competition in that sense, like Twitch had the monopoly for however long, and having YouTube come in, having Twitter come in, I think they had some stream deals come in, and now Facebook. It's huge for the industry and specifically for Facebook and the Portuguese stream. It's huge for Brazil. Brazil is the primary social media outlet in the country.
Yeah, we were talking earlier in the office, and we were just discussing this amongst ourselves. And one of our colleagues, Daniel Rosen, was telling me that in Brazil, Facebook is the social media. Like it's what people use. So, because my initial thought, Matt, was I was thinking like, well, this is interesting because esports is supposed to skew really young millennial, right? And then I keep hearing really young millennials are not. They're either getting rid of their Facebooks or they never had it in the first place. So in that, like, because I always think about things as like an end user for whatever reason. That's how my brain works. Obviously, the money aspect is good and necessary, and that is how business works, right? But I was kind of thinking like, well, I don't know. Is the audience already on that platform? But at the very least in Brazil, it seems like, yeah, they definitely are.
Yeah.
Sure, and it's hard to have multi-platform deals to. I mean, look, I mean, Polish and everything staying on Twitch, but it's unfortunate you couldn't do like half and half and get everyone everywhere. But that's not the way it's going to work. Unfortunately, the platforms are also a business, and there's a reason they're going after these deals. They want the traffic driven their direction. I mean, look, I've heard the millennial thing as well, and I kind of get it. I made fun of someone today on Twitter, just kind of taking the piss and said like, oh, I get it. You're one of those badass kids who doesn't want to be near their parents and too cool. I did that too, man. I was on a website called Nexopia, which was like the Canadian MySpace. Like no one knew. I was so obscure and badass on the internet.
We're going to have to find that page, by the way.
I think it's dead. And my account is long deleted. So good luck.
Wayback Machine. What up?
Exactly.
There was some incriminating stuff on there. Let me tell you, my emo days were well documented. But yeah, Dot Solace was the username if you want to try and find it, as emo as that is. So yeah, I mean, that might be true, but the other cool thing about it is you don't need a Facebook to watch. If you read the article, you can actually just go to live.esl.com or live.proleague.com, whatever the URL, I think both. And you'll be able to watch it without a Facebook. You don't need one. The stream can be embedded anywhere. So that argument dies as well in a way. It may not hit them in the face like it will if it's in the algorithm on Facebook and captivate new users. Those users will have to go out of their way to find it, but they still can. So that doesn't change much. And chances are those people are still watching through Twitch or they're on the Reddit and they'll see the highlights popping up.
That's a really good point, actually, about not needing to use Facebook. I didn't actually consider that. Sorry, Josh.
You also don't need an account, I guess, from what I understand. Like,
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, you can just get the stream. And the other thing about Facebook I want to quickly point out before we move on is they were talking about how you could potentially like invite people to watch the stream that are your friends who aren't already watching it. Thought that was kind of cool. It's a little bit different, obviously, than Twitch, where you're gonna have the big mosh pit of Twitch chat and people saying, ha ha ha, bot rain or whatever, like bot alu in the old days. But it is kind of cool that there is maybe a different way to consume esports where you get with your friends, like it's almost like you're on the couch even though you're not. So I don't know, like I want to give it a chance, and I think the money thing is crazy. Can you imagine somebody in the NBA? Oh yeah, man, the NBA. They don't love the game, man. They just want to sell the broadcast rights. Like, screw those people. Like, what?
Oh, man, it kills me. Like, just the other week, we put out not to go on a fucking tangent here when we have a time limit, but just the other week, we put out an article with Red Eye talking about some Overwatch League broadcast deals. There's someone in the Twitter like, oh, they're only doing it for the money. Yes, you fuck. Yes, they are. What the fuck? Like,
how dare you?
It just kills me.
Yeah, it's a piss poor argument, I'm afraid. Like, we're all trying to make a living, and the more money that they can generate, the better they can develop their product for everyone. So it's a win-win. I get the Twitch thing. I do. I'm a fan of Twitch chat. I like trolling Twitch chat or interacting with them sometimes while streaming. And yeah, okay, it is part of it. It's something we've all come to love, but it's at the end of the day, that's pretty inconsequential too. I mean, I watch NHL. I can't talk to anyone.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, look, someone scored. Who's in the room with me? 10 people. Yay! Like, So you get used to it.
It's funny you mentioned that because when I'm watching the Leafs, my Facebook chat, that's like.
Well, you don't cheer for scoring very much then.
I'm sorry. Have you been watching lately?
All right, calm down. One good year.
Austin Matthews. Okay. Anyways,
carry on.
Moving on to Counter-Strike Global Offensive and the major. There's a lot to talk about with this specific major. We had our pre-production meeting yesterday, and I kind of thought like, I want to ask like Sato like who's going to win and all this sort of the standard questions. But as we talk more about it, there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
There's the 100 Thieves thing. There's the major, and I'm doing air quotes right now, being like 24 teams, the offline qualifier being part of the major, but it's also sort of not.
Yeah.
There's the myriad of coaches and subs who are playing, right?
Yeah.
So I guess I just wanted to start with 100 Thieves. We're like blown away that they were not allegedly not able to secure visas, especially working with an organization that has pro sports backing and that you would think kind of has their shit together. Like, what do you think happened here?
100 Thieves specifically, I mean, I don't know. It's a tough one. So I kind of spaced out midway on it. So I think that do you want to know my opinion on the decision of them not being here, or the consequences of them not being here, or?
Well, I guess first I wonder if you could like join our speculation about what could have happened, and then.
Okay. So, I mean, I don't want to put too much on it. I think part of it was apparently there was. This is where like there's so much hearsay that even I don't know if I'm caught up in hearsay and rumors. Yeah. So I think that part of it is like I would speculate that they were late applying in the first place would be the simplest way to go with that. The KNG thing being brought in, I think, is what kind of the drama that everyone's asking about.
Yeah.
And look, I was in Montreal and I kind of saw secondhand. I guess I didn't see firsthand. Like I didn't see KNG running around the hotel, but I could tell you that based on what I was hearing, I definitely can admit that was true. I don't know how much police jurisdiction or involvement there was in that. I know that the rumor was that the Immortals org actually called the police themselves to lock KNG down. Now I don't know if that's true or not, but he was definitely told to go to his room and stay there, and was not guarded but monitored and staying there. Whether or not that whole issue got into the visa situation directly through police involvement, I don't know, and I kind of doubt. It may have been, and I know that crossing borders, people Google me. I've been stopped twice specifically, but once to the U.S. and the guy said, he asked me like, okay, so where are you going? Da, 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 da. And sometimes I'll say photography just because it's easier to explain than esports, honestly. But I did say I was going to an event, and he said, are you getting paid? I said, well, I'm not being paid through the States. I have my company in Canada, which is true, da, da, da. And then he said, so what about this race car? And I was like, how the hell did he know about that? It was like right after it was stolen. So basically he was, he's asking about finances in an indirect way, right? So I know they do Google stuff, and it's possible that they Googled and it popped up. I don't know, especially if you're applying for a long-term visa. There was also the speculation that they had previously been in the U.S. with visas that weren't actually covering what they were there for, or were expired, or something along those lines. I'm not sure. All I know is that I shouldn't say I know, but another rumor I heard is that there was also 100 Thieves agreeing to pick them up based on them being able to get visas again. So I don't know if that's true or not, because that seems obviously that it didn't work. It's a difficult one. I mean, I was excited to see 100 Thieves come and play this major simply because of the underlying story.
Yeah.
I think they have a ton of skill on their team. Lucas, Henny, FNX, those three are amazing in their own right. KNG was exceptional at the last major. And for those reasons, I think there was a great sort of nemesis, villain story to go with it. At the same time, the roster locks have never been so victimizing as they have been with Bolts and Steel. Those two guys did everything right. In Montreal, those guys were sad. Like they were visibly upset with the situation that happened to Immortals. And both of those guys, I felt like, were in a really tough spot. They had no choice at the time other than to try and qualify for a minor with a Immortals roster that was really roped together. And both got offers that they deserved. Bolts went back to SK. Steel to Liquid. Both of those guys deserve that. And because of the situation, they now can't play in the major with their new teams. So in some ways, maybe it's, karma. Maybe it's justice for them that the 100 Thieves guys didn't make it. And also that Liquid got their legend, well, not legend, but they got the top 16 spot back by getting that extra place that was granted. Like I don't know. Maybe there's some karma in that. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of conflicted. Like I kind of feel like good serves you right, but at the same time, that you don't want to see that happen to a team that's trying to make a living and get to a major. So I don't know. It's hard to speculate on everything that happened. I'm gonna take the innocent until proven guilty road on the KNG thing and say that it probably was a clerical thing with them applying late or something that popped up in the system. It's not impossible that the KNG thing is part of it, but until I see proof of that, I'm not going to sit here and say, yeah, that's why.
Boy, you said it, man. Like it's just shitty for everyone involved because, as you said, 100 Thieves was a cool storyline going in. I kind of feel bad for Nadeshot. You know, that sucks for the org. Obviously, they signed them for a reason. They're not just a great group of players. They have a major spot. It's kind of a big deal, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Players don't get to play. Org doesn't get to field them. And as you pointed out very astutely, like Steel and Bolts, like where are they? This sucks.
Yeah.
But it is amazing when you think about Liquid getting in because of 100 Thieves and it's Steel's team and his old team, but he's not playing for his new team. You know, like it's a little wacky.
Yep. No, absolutely. I mean, Steel would have had to go back to the minor again if Liquid didn't. And let's remember how many times Immortal struggled in minors just to get to qualifiers, and then suddenly they're in a final. Like, I feel horrible for those two guys. I think that never has there been a situation where the roster locks have been so, I guess, unfair. I know Kjarby was held out at one. You know, ESL Cologne 2016, I know Threat had to play when Pith couldn't get a visa to go back to the U.S. I mean, there's been all kinds of situations that are unfortunate, but it's, you know, these two in particular, those guys did nothing wrong in their positions.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of Liquid squeaking in, they did so in a nail-biting OT game against Avant-Garde, and there seems like there's a lot of CIS surprises at this major in particular. Obviously, Vega killed it.
Yeah.
They killed it.
Yeah.
Quantum Bellator Fire made it in. That's amazing for them. Avant-Garde was this close, right?
Yeah.
They just some OT rounds. And obviously, Gambit are our major champions. So, like, do you feel like that there is some kind of movement in the CIS region? Like, is this going to become a powerhouse? Is it already a powerhouse?
I mean, powerhouse is a tough one. You could say Brazil's a powerhouse, but right now their only team is SK.
Right.
I mean, there's lots of talent there as well. It's just that they need to sort themselves. I think that's kind of what's happened. There's been stability enough in the CIS scene that they're letting it be known. We also tend to focus on CIS as a whole as opposed to, you know, we could focus on Europe as a whole, but we look at France, we look at Sweden, we look at Denmark. We break it up differently in our minds, I think, too. So it's a bit of a perception thing. But I will say that having the Gambit win the major is obviously huge for the CIS region. And then having a number of teams sort of already included opened up more spots from the minors. So it allows other teams we've not seen before to showcase themselves in a better light. And what that does for the whole scene is not only showcase new players, but it gives other players, younger players, experience. It lets teams sort of learn from that and take it home and you know, have a book to learn from. If you're only playing tier 2, tier 3 teams, you don't learn as much. Like, I would rather get crushed by a tier 1 team so I can actually pick apart what went wrong at a top level, right? Because that's what you're aspiring to be. So it's good for everyone. And I think that's I won't necessarily say they're on the road to being a powerhouse, but it certainly shows us that just because they're not on our radar and on our streams in Pro League or E-League or ECS, you know, they've got their own stuff going on up there, and there's a lot of skill, there's a lot of talent. Especially, look, Avant-Garde didn't make it through, and even though they won the minor against QBF, they've got that's another 4 Kazakhstani players that I've never really heard of that well. I know some people have, but I don't have time to follow all of that, and I'm impressed. There's lots of talent there, and just like Fitch, just like Hobbit, just like Dren, you know, and Mo, and there's a lot going on. I think I wouldn't be surprised to see a little bit of changes. I think Flipside will make changes that might involve one of the other teams, either QBF or Avant-Garde. I think Avant-Garde was a bit unfortunate to not get through. They played the morning game on Decider Day, and then QBF just played, and they went straight back into a match where maybe they weren't as warm. And then obviously they were unfortunate not to get the extra spot against Liquid. And Liquid, by the way, could have gone out 3-0 if they'd won 2 more rounds in either of their games. They lost 16-14 twice. So it was almost like, Jesus, how did they end up here?
That's a good point.
But yeah, I think the CIS region is going to, I mean, this is really good for them. And again, with having 4 teams now into the top 16, it means that we're guaranteed in the next round of 24, which is now called the Major, which we can talk about if you want.
Yeah.
It means that there will be 6 teams involved in the next major cycle, which is, I think we had 5 this time. Maybe 6 this time as well. Either way, but it's another big deal for them. It's more teams that are going to get to showcase. And we might see a team like Tengri pop back onto the radar.
For sure.
I think it's Pro 100 is the other team that Zeus sponsors as an amateur team. So there's lots of guys that'll get their chance, and I think that's really awesome.
Yeah, it's personally it's sick to see. I know some people on Twitter or whatever, Twitch chat are just like, who the fuck are these guys? Like, how are they winning? But it's so sick to be like, I don't know who these guys are. Buster, okay, and then like they just wreck
Yep.
we know who Vega is, but I mean, like
sure.
Wrecking Phase, but more Quantum Bellator fire, and that's exciting. It's exciting to see new players, and as you said, Matt, Gambit being in allows more qualifier spots, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and Vega is awesome, man. Like, they play the best Counter-Strike they play in Atlanta here in the TBS studios. It's like, yeah, those guys are like awesome. This tournament for them was so good. I hope it continues into the major, because if they play like that, outside shot at a top 8 for sure.
What, man, they're no fear. Like that game against FaZe, like they just didn't give a shit. Like it's like they didn't know that Nico was on the other end or Rain or whatever.
Yeah.
They were just like, yeah, we'll just crush these guys, whatever.
The thing is, though, like, they don't just throw aggression; they do it in really smart ways. Like the game on Overpass highlighted that the most for me, because aggression is part of the meta there. So I thought, like, okay, I forget who they were playing on that game. I think it was Liquid, and they were like, I was thinking like, okay, this will be, fine. They're gonna be able to read the aggression because it's already just expected. But then the flashes were so good, the timing was so good, the trades, like, they're really good at getting map control on the CT side.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you telegraphed a minute ago, or you mentioned with some trepidation in your voice, that we could talk about the major, quote unquote, being 24 teams. Sounds like you might have some thoughts on that.
Yeah, so I had an interview when I was in Mexico at the ECS finals where I said, I'm all for change, but I'm skeptical of why they're doing it, and I would reserve judgment until after I see it. Look, nothing's changed. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
They're just calling it a major, and, oh, great, the qualifier's part of it now. I don't know that it's enough. Now, I'm okay with it because they've added drops to the stream, and the stream therefore generates more viewers, and the more viewers for the lesser teams is good, much like we were just saying for the CIS region to showcase themselves. I mean, we are at least double or triple what we normally get for qualifying games, let's be honest. There's more people involved, and I don't know if that is just drops or if it's the major hype altogether or both, whatever. But I'd like to see more done in the format, maybe in terms of seeding, maybe in terms of if we're gonna, part of me wants to think that Valve did this for two reasons. One, my guess, and this was the lower of the guess, but the first thought was the qualifier and the major are so close together that they didn't think they could get the stickers done or generated in time to make the revenue they need off of them. They could have easily got them done. They would have just, all 24 teams would have submitted, and then they would have just selected the 16. That's possible. But that was my first thought, like, okay, they're really tight together, so Valve's just going to group it all. But then the other thought is, I know they've talked about expanding the major in the past, and this could just be the first step at doing it. But I'd like to see some more change done in terms of how the whole thing works. And maybe be getting it more involvement, because right now it's the same thing. It's just labeled differently. So I don't know how you fix it. I think seeding certainly comes into it. I think maybe some more best of threes and some of the deciders, because now we're onto a 4-day break, which is important. I think teams do need time off. Obviously, the other teams have to travel in, but there's a day or two there you could extend maybe. But yeah, I don't know. I've got to sit and brainstorm on that one. I don't know how you fix it, but I'm not in love with the fact that they just call it a major and that's it. And then
Yeah.
So I think long term it could be good, but it's right now it doesn't. Nothing feels different to the point where we're even saying qualifying stage still on stream, right? Like, it hasn't even convinced us that it's any different.
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest problems actually is that the rule set is still considering the two things separate. There was a thing with the RPK where, like, if he qualified for the major, he wasn't able to move on to, or sorry, if Malik qualified for the major with
RPK being sick.
With RPK being sick, RPK couldn't come back into the event 4 days later. Like,
I had my own opinions on that. I think that rule was like, you got to understand, like, spirit of the rules is sometimes different than the black and white of the rule.
Yeah.
And every situation, there's always a situation that can arise that you kind of have to consider outside of that spirit, or was that intended? So in this case, I would call it extreme circumstances. I tweeted about this too. Like, that is extreme circumstances. Someone being sick in the middle of a major after they've already played in it, and then healing. The rule basically says, like, once another player subs in, the other player cannot return. So your coach can sub in for you, but once that's done, it's permanent. The spirit of that rule to me would say, like, yeah, that means you can't have just a sixth man. You rotate in and out for different maps, or you can't take advantage of this, by bringing a player in later or having someone smurf for you, etc. It keeps the teams locked in, but I don't know if sickness was that considered. We need clarification on that.
Yeah.
According to the rule, it doesn't matter. But again, was that scenario considered when the rule was written? That's where it could be outside of the spirit of the rule, and then that's where you need some sort of judical voice from Valve to say, hey, this is a little different. And we've never had the situation where a team's gone far enough to have someone return. In Cologne, Dupree was still not fit to play by the time Astralis were knocked out. So Zonik was playing, and everyone said, well, Dupree didn't play again. Well, Dupree was not healthy enough to play again. Simple as that. If RPK was suddenly healthy enough to play again, it would have been the first time that had happened. So, yeah, I think that the clarification for future could be good in that situation. But, yeah. It is an interesting thought. And the other thought as well with the 24 teams being included now is what happens to the minors. If we're including the qualifier as all one, which suddenly means we no longer have the 8 previous major attendants or attendees and 2 from each region, we're getting a pool of everyone that was included last time. But how do the minors still work into that? Because you get 2 and 2, but it's exactly the same, but you're going to have different slots allocated based on seedings. If they change I think the minor now needs to be more global focused if we're really going to work it into saying this is the best 24 teams in the world. Well, there's a big asterisk on that.
For sure.
That's interesting. I would definitely also like to see an overhauled major format just for kicks, just to see how it would work, because we've been doing the same thing for a while now. Speaking of French players, since we just jumped off of RPK, I wonder, Sato, if we can get you to put on your historian hat. We're working on a project about the one, the only Kenny S, actually, and I think Josh is looking to pick your brain a little bit. Oh,
there it is.
There it is. I'm glad you had it with you. It's good.
I did. It's not really pointy today, but it's all right. Look, I'll make it a little more French, maybe. Hang on.
Oh boy.
Yeah, there we go.
Wow.
It's the
One
best I
day
can do.
more.
Okay.
Are we going to sing Les Mis, Josh?
No, we're not.
Oh, all right.
After, though, we
Look
can.
down, look down. You didn't make the major. I'm done.
Okay. Wow. Okay, so...
Save it for the one-on-one Skype call.
Jesus.
All right.
Maybe he'll
let's
be
go.
wearing only the hat.
Before we go back...
Where is he? Sorry, continue, Josh, continue.
Josh hates us.
Before we go back to the distant past, Matt, I want to ask a little bit about what you've seen from the French teams here. And are we on the verge of yet another shuffle, maybe, given that some of the team dynamics maybe not what we expected here?
Excluding G2, yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. I think you're going to see Davidovec and Amanak return to the French scene. I think that's already loosely rumored based on the fact that Misfits haven't renewed, and you would think that would have been a foregone conclusion based on their improvement. I think that Amanek and Davidovec think they've showcased themselves enough in NA, and they have a better chance of moving forward back in France. And I think Envious needs to make changes. I'm sorry, but it's not good enough. It's not. Even, this event, you can say RPK was sick, and certainly they got knocked out playing with Malik. But it's not good enough. And I'm going to put some fault on Happy on that. He's a 2-time major champion who's playing with Scream. RPK's playing super consistent, and they just can't get anything going on that team at all. And it still seems like he's not involving himself in certain situations while lurking. I think he can do more. I think he needs to reinvent his in-game leading style quite a bit. And I think that guys, put the differences behind you. Guys like Existence could easily step in and in-game lead a team to success yet again. And, Kiyoshima also said, I'll never play with the French team. But I'm sure if there was a good enough offer out there with players perhaps like Amanek and Davidovec that he's not as familiar with or doesn't have any history with, maybe there's a chance for renewed faith in that regard. So, one of the rumors I think was Existence, Kiyoshima, Amanek, Davidovec, and I think Zwu is the 5th, which would be reasonable, actually. That would be a pretty good team, I think. A lot of young talent on that, and Existence and Kyo would hold the reins, and I think that would have a chance to maybe get backside of the top 10 every now and then, and in terms of ratings, and be something special. But the Envious team, Sixer is not consistent enough on the op. XMS is not having the impact I think that he was hoping to have, or they were hoping that he would have. And between them, the duo from Misfits, Existence team, some of the LDLC guys, there's enough talent in France, especially with Zwu on the op, that they could make another solid team that could be better than what we we're getting from MVS, especially because we thought MVS at first when the shuffle was done and they beat G2 online so convincingly was going to be exceptional, but they just haven't been. I mean, Scream had one good half in this whole event, and he hasn't had a half like that in forever, and that's not what we expect from, widely regarded as the world's best aimer in CS. So definitely a change coming in the French scene. I don't think it'll include G2. If it does, you might see Body out and a different in-game leader come in. I'm glad they've put Shox back into a lurking role. He's certainly better off in that position, and he'll create space for Kenny S. But yeah, I think that they'll give that a little more time now that they've switched that at least.
Do we know what the beef exactly with Existence is? Like, I mean, it seems like he is sort of a pariah at this point.
I forget what the exact issue was. This is where Thorin is, better with the history of that. Or I know there was an internal argument with conflict on the team, and there was different play styles, whatever. And Maniac and Existence were both on the chopping block, and then they had issues with themselves, with each other, and they wouldn't play with each other forever. And now they are again. So you can definitely put differences behind you. But I think, if I remember correctly, I think it was Happy and Existence that had the argument. I think it was strictly over in-game leading issues and leadership issues, but. I'd have to look that one up. It's been a while, but basically it's just a grudge.
No problem.
Right? It's the same as a lot of the NA teams had way back in 2013 when they were crossing over from Source and whatnot. There was a few grudges that people wouldn't play with each other. And it's unfortunate because in-game leading is always the hard role to fill, and Existence isn't a good in-game leader and someone who could certainly help the French scene more than hurt them at this point in time. I think not much more could hurt them.
Oh, I want to talk a little bit about the French scene because I feel like it's this community of.
I'm gonna take this stupid hat off though first.
Okay, that's fair. It's this community of players that have a lot of whom have been playing together for a while certainly since the switch to Go. There you see those same names. In the case of Kenny S, who really had a while before he saw the kind of success that we really felt he was capable of. Do you think the insular nature of that scene affected his ability to find success overall?
I don't know. By the way, Kenny S is named after Henry G, for everyone who's wondering. That's a fact. Yeah, I know, right?
That is true.
He named himself after Henry G. I get to hear all the time, trust me.
What's the TLDR on that?
Basically, he just liked the way his name was formatted.
Really?
Yeah. And Henry was a super, super, super solid Source player who Kenny actually looked up to, apparently. So, yeah, that was part of it. Henry was up there in Source. In terms of Kenny's development, I think a lot of it has to do with his play style. Certain teams don't necessarily favor him to be aggressive as he is. He kind of had to prove himself in that regard. But I mean, you talk about success coming through Source and whatnot. He was a young player. It's hard to get a chance when you're that young. Now he's got the chance, but I think a lot of the issue comes from motivation currently with Kenny, and I think he's certainly finding that again now with G2. I think midsummer last year he was probably tapering off in that regard. But yeah, he's certainly a player that you have to respect his skill to, I think, give him what he needs from an AWP. We know how good he is close range with an AWP. I mean, A-Site Inferno used to literally be Kenny's territory. If they were there post-plant and he had an AWP, forget it. It was better than the AK up close. And we know how good he is at no-scopes and how ridiculous he is good at fast angles. So it's kind of unorthodox at times, and you kind of have to put him in positions that you may not think apply, or put him in a pressure situation that most ops couldn't handle, and he'll get away with it. And I think that is something that an in-game leader has to understand about Kenny. And the more space he has in that regard, the better he becomes. I don't know what took him so long to develop in terms of the French scene. I couldn't look specifically. I'd have to look through each roster and demos and whatnot to remind it. But I think it was just more of a respect thing and learning his craft, and he also fitting into that game style. Because you got to remember, same thing with Nico, same thing with Stewie. A lot of those guys come in and they're playing at a lower level. Shroud, you could argue Shroud's a bit of a similar story when he plays on stream versus with a team. That's a bit of a looser one, but when you play so loose and aggressive, you get so used to that you're inevitably going to make mistakes, and you kind of have to learn on your own to make those, how to not to make those mistakes. But at the same time, as an in-game leader, if I'm seeing you make those, I'm going to tell you how not to make those rather than let you figure it out. So that kind of hinders the learning process, I think, of fear of failure, if you will. Like, teams need to learn how to make mistakes to learn from them. So Kenny's an interesting one. He's certainly someone everyone respects now, and I think has found his form, but it's certainly like every opera I see in online that tries to replicate that, it can't do it, and there's a reason for that.
He's also a player that has been known as like a very emotional player. We've seen him have a couple outbursts within the French scene. The notorious sort of backstabbing statement that he made when Apex kind of shut him out in a way of that one team. And we've also seen that sort of like translate to his play style as well, where sometimes he goes on these hot streaks, other times looks kind of cold, maybe a little bit out of it, and he's trying to find that confidence. Is that the kind of player that you think can find consistent long-term success? Or do you have to master that emotional aspect of you in order to find that?
Yeah, you're talking more about the LDLC Titan issue with Apex, when Apex was obviously still on LDLC and they were running with Smiths at the time. I guess that kind of is exactly what I was talking about with the French scene in terms of, they've all got little grudges with each other, and it doesn't always benefit the long-term success, I guess you could say. Emotion, the outburst I think you're also talking about would be Cologne 2015, I think, when they lost in the final to Fnatic, and then again when they won, which would have been in Cluj. You see both sides of it, and you still see in camera, like, his hands are shaking at times. Like, he has that really, like, raw adrenaline sort of emotion that goes with him, and you can certainly see him being frustrated at times, and then I'd say more frequently you see him frustrated and stressed than you do happy. And I think it's good that he has that level of emotion because he's certainly committed to the game, and I think that it can go both ways. I know that GetRight, for example, used to sit at the end of the teams because he was so emotional at times that the other players would be thrown off by it. And I think that Kenny is a similar player that if he's in that kind of mood and if he's vocalizing, it can be a problem. I think he's also had games where he's so shaky and adrenaline-based that he misses, he hits some crazy shots, but then he misses a really easy one. And you're like, whoa, what's going on? And it's, the muscles are just not working right because they're just so stressed. And you can see physically that his body looks stressed. I think that in terms of that emotion, you can't argue that he cares about the game. In terms of motivation, in terms of finding consistency, I know that Kenny is someone who actually, and I've had this conversation with him, thinks that sometimes time off is better than trying to grind it out. A lot of times you develop bad habits slowly and they become more frequent in your game. And if you just continue to play, you just continue to develop those bad habits. Sometimes it's better to take a break. And we talked about this, basically take a break, reset, come back, and it's like, they say it's like riding a bike, but when you ride a bike for the first time, you remember the good things because you're focusing on how to do it again. So you kind of bring back some of the better game style and game play. In terms of consistency, look, you're never going to see him hit stupidly good numbers every single game, but you will over long periods of time. What I'm saying is that with his play style, every now and then he's going to have a game when he gets caught out, when he's missing a few of those easy shots, like I said, when another team just happens to have his number and he's losing a duel you don't expect. And we're all going to look at that and go, wow, that's not Kenny. What the hell's going on? Why is that happening to the world's best opper, quote unquote? And you focus on the negative because I think that the good is so good and so frequent that we've come to expect that. Whereas, like I say, if you step back and reflect over his numbers as a whole, there's still pretty damn good ratings in there. But like I say, it's the anomalies every now and then that stand out for that reason. It'd be like if coldzera had a really bad game. We'd talk about that. If he had one game out of 5 in a tournament that was really bad, the other 5 were what we normally expect, we'd all look at the bad one because it's out of the norm. And I think Kenny has more consistency than we credit him for, but he has more peak potential and he has every now and then more offsetting numbers that kind of throw us off of what is consistency for him. So I wouldn't be concerned or like worried too much about emotions and stuff being in check. I think a lot of that too is, and we'll see with the new style of Shox creating room, I think we'll see, because he'll be able to focus more on individual spots and individual obligations and roles and positions with the op. But yeah, I don't think there's an issue in terms of consistency with him.
Okay, that's cool. Last thing I kind of want to ask about Kenny is something that affected all oppers in the game, which is if we go back to the end of March 2015, the op nerf. And honestly, like in hindsight, it seems hard to gauge because we've had this op for over 2 years now, like almost 3 years, really. Like we're coming up on 3, right? So what do you think the immediate impact was? And is there any alternate world without the op nerf where we're seeing, I guess, whatever Valve was trying to stop? Like, I guess 2-part question. First, what do you think the immediate impact is on Kenny, and what is the legacy of that today, do you think?
Sure. First and foremost, I'll say that was one of the best changes Valve ever made. At the time, the op would dictate games. Now it's still relevant in games, but you can utilize it differently, or you have to run a double op setup because they have to be a little more stationary. I think that op change was great. I think the op's still fine. I think everyone's gotten used to it. Gotten used to it's the big thing. The immediate result was certainly Kenny, a little bit Guardian, but certainly Kenny was hurt the most. As I talked about, he was someone who could play very close. He could move very quickly with the op. He could hit no scopes. He was constantly quick peeking and quick scoping. That movement mechanic was taken out quite significantly. And it's not that Kenny wasn't skillful enough at the time to say, oh, it's different. I'm still good with it. It wasn't that he didn't have the skill suddenly. It was that it's muscle memory and it's force of habit. And you have to really dial back and relearn it. And I think because he was the one that took advantage of that movement mechanic so much, it took him a little bit longer to do so. It's like I say, riding a bike, but all of a sudden the wheels are different size, or you're a kid growing up and you get a new bike that's a little bigger. You're a little clumsy at first, right? So I think now he's fine. I think he's back to, it took a long time, I will say, because it took to like the middle of, I would say late 2016, early 2017 to be like, okay, Kenny's Kenny again. Kenny's back. But I think it was just getting used to it more than anything. I'm not gonna sit here and analyze every single crouch peak movement that he made. He just had to get used to being more stationary and more, I guess, open. The problem was before that like an op could just peek you and not have an angle held and just wreck you, because you wouldn't even, with an AK, unless you hit a perfect shot, you wouldn't have time. Now it's a little more difficult for them to do that.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to add about Kenny, ask specifically about Kenny. But I guess in closing, sort of your thoughts on his whole career trajectory. So I mean, he's still very young. Obviously, this is CS. He could have 15 years ahead of him in this scene for all we know. But like, how do you feel to this point? We could just describe what Kenny has done so far.
He's definitely influenced the generation of operas to come. There's no question. Like every kid in the server, like I say, is trying to move like Guardian and Kenny and hit these crazy shots when ultimately they should probably be playing a little more of a turret style, a little more passive. Maybe like, who's a good example? Like a Pasha at times, who sits back and has an angle held. He's done a lot in that regard. In terms of influencing us. And in CSGO, he certainly dictated the way the op was played and made teams realize they had to have aggressive ops on both sides at certain times. We saw meta shift, certainly before the 2015 nerf, in that direction. And he's done a lot for the French scene as well, because I'm not going to lie, their opping potential hasn't been amazing. Zwoo's coming up now and looks similar and looks like he's the same form. Wouldn't be surprised if he said someday, like, yeah, I used to watch all Kenny's demos, right? And Device even said it with Astralis. Like, I watched Kenny, I watched Guardian, I watched a few of those guys to really learn how and where they got their kill percentages and how to play each angle in that regard. So he's done a lot, and the French scene certainly has benefited from having him there and their success with Very Games and then LDLC and Titan and now Envy and G2. And you're right, he is still very young and could continue on for a long period of time. It also helps that he's marketable. He's built a brand for himself, and that goes a long way as well.
Perfect. Thanks, Matt. Thanks for looking back into the mist-shrouded past with me there. I appreciate it.
No worries.
I think this is the second podcast in a row you've used the term mist-shrouded past.
The past is always mist-shrouded.
It's not mist.
It's never rainy or sunny. It's always mist-shrouded. I don't know why, but
is that what we're gonna call the biography of Shroud as a player?
Oh my God!
Shit!
Damn.
Mist-shrouded.
Can I use that one, or are you copywriting that one right now?
It's already done. Sorry, my lawyers are watching and listening, and they just instantly did it.
Oh, we fucked up. Matt, I gotta say, you are one of the best people we've interviewed in terms of throwing a question that is not in line with previous questions, and then you seem to have a perfect, well-constructed answer ready for us. It's so nice. It's a godsend. So
I'm gonna run for president of the United States someday.
Okay.
I'm just because all I have to do is just make up my own questions, answer them, and be good at speaking and bullshit everything, and I can win, right?
But you can't do that as a Canadian, though, right?
Shh, don't tell anyone.
Yeah. Yeah, you spoil it.
Secret Canadian.
Yeah.
Now, in with throwing you off in mind, because obviously I try my best to do that. No, of course I don't.
Sure.
I want to ask the standard question now, bringing it back to present day, to the major, of who's in contention for winning this thing. According to E-League, You are middle of the pack for correct predictions right now. You're not, you're definitely better than Yanko. Okay, but
okay, let's throw him under that.
but I no disrespect. We haven't had him on this podcast yet, so I don't want to ruin that. I definitely want him on this. So Yanko, if you're out there, love you. You're the best. But you're at 18.
Yeah, even if your predictions aren't.
Even he's no King Moses, right? He's no Moses parting the Red Sea with sharks jumping out of it and shit.
So Moses is like Aquaman too. Damn.
Moses did. I tried to do that. So get this. I tried to do that with Avangar. I went like for the 1 versus 8 pick on day 1 and they lost. So then I was like, oh, I won't pick them. And then they won. So then I was like, oh, I'll pick them again. And then they lost. And then I was like, well, they'll go through. And then they every time I picked them to win, except for the game against Liquid, they actually lost and vice versa. So that was annoying. And then he got the Sprout pick. So every 1 versus 8, like he won, which made him the king in the end.
Yeah.
But without those, Bardolph, I think, was the most consistent in terms of the split picks. But, predictions. They're always fun.
You are correct. Bardolph was number 2, coming in hot with 23 correct predictions.
Yeah, I think he was pretty consistent throughout. Look, I made a tweet, actually, just before we went live. I said this months ago, my top 4 were SK, FaZe, who did I say? SK, FaZe, Gambit, and Astralis were the top 4 that I had. I really do think Gambit could easily make the top 4. Now, SK playing with Phelps, we haven't seen him with him in a while, so there's a chance they don't make top 4. I don't think there's a chance they don't make a legend spot, but there's a chance they don't make top 4 depending on how the bracket lines up. I would put G2 and Cloud9, interesting, both out of the qualifier, as the next 2 likely to make it into one of those positions.
Man, I would love for both Cloud9 and Gambit to be in that mix. That would be so cool. We've got a whiteboard here at the Score Esports that we like to make our predictions on.
Do I have to give you one team?
I mean, you just kind of volunteered, so I think now you have to.
If you want to get on the whiteboard, then you do have to give us one team.
All right, I want to hear the predictions around the room first.
Okay, sure. I'm gonna, because it's the best story for me, I'm going with G2. I would love to see that team. Like, they've had some kind of, like, I've watched them, and they have some kind of not great performances. Like, not performances that give you, like, confidence, I guess. But, I don't know. I think they're going to turn it on. Let's see it. Let's see them turn it on. G2.
All right.
That's not surprising at all, because I know you've had your nose in Kenny S research for a while, and so you're all about it. I'm going to make a visual prediction, so I'll telegraph this for Matt in just a minute. But
he did phase up, didn't he?
Yeah.
Oh, he knew! How did he know?
Amazing. Jesus Christ.
Just, why am I not surprised, Colin? Yeah, definitely. All right.
Yeah, and then mine, it's gonna be Astralis, I think. I think there's something in the water in Atlanta with Astralis and
Device back and healthy.
Yeah, exactly.
We go to Boston though for the final. Remember?
Oh, true facts. You
go to Boston in a car and you come home in a car. It's one of those. Yeah. All right. I can live with that, Dennis.
Okay.
Like I said, my top 4. Honestly, I think FaZe should be the favorite going into this, the way that they've been playing as of late. And I mean, look, okay, they lost. They were shaky against Liquid in the opening game, and they lost one in the qualifier. Big deal. You just got to get through the qualifiers, get through the group stages. After that, that's when you got to show up. So just survive until the top 8, and I think they'll be fine. But I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna throw it out there. Gambit's gonna repeat.
Oh shit! Dennis and I did the exact same thing.
Yo, I actually love that. I hope that happens.
Yeah.
I actually do.
Just because I'm going to look brilliant if it does.
Yeah.
Okay, you called it. It's here. We're going to release this podcast before the bracket stage. So, it's going to be in, as we used to say, in print. It's going to be on the internet. In print. I'm old. The
thing is, I'm going to do another interview tomorrow and just pick someone else. So eventually I'm going to look right.
You got to spread it out.
I will say they'll be top 4. To pick the winner in this one's very, very hard.
Absolutely.
But I think don't sleep on Gambit. Even if they don't win it, they're gonna put up some games, man. Fitch is pretty solid, and there's no reason they couldn't do it again.
Man, I love to watch Gambit when they're on. I love that top 4. I honestly hope your top 4 comes true, Matt, because those are sick teams to have.
Yeah.
As we are winding down, because I know you got lots of stuff to do over there in Atlanta, we want to give you the old final question, which is just a platform, which is just, is there anything you wanted to say that we didn't touch on? Anything you wanted to bring up? A shout out, a comment, It's all you.
Do more Boston accents.
Oh, more Boston accents.
Yeah, exactly. No, Ka's the only one I can do. I'm sorry. Yeah, no, I mean, look, let's hope the major goes very, very well. It's going good so far, and I think this week is really going to show us who's been putting in the work over the off season, and who's ready to play. Good to see Device back, see what sort of form he's in. Apparently going out of the rifle, letting Dupree take the ops, so that's a change right there in Astralis' play style. Excuse me. That'll be interesting to watch. And overall, yeah, let's have a good year at Counter-Strike and let's keep moving forward because it's been pretty sweet so far. And I want to be the first 4-time guest. That's all I'm going to say.
Yes. I was going to say that if you didn't. That is awesome. Matt, it is truly always a pleasure. I feel like I learn a lot whenever we talk to you. Like I said, you always have great answers. And let's make that 4th podcast happen.
I'm down.
And don't forget, the next time you're in Toronto, you know where to go. We got that beer.
1v1. We got the 1v1 lined up. Yes. We're ready to roll. And yeah, I'll be there. Beer.
I'm hyped.
Nice.
If I sub in my coach, am I allowed to like pick it up later, or like what are the rules on that?
No, sorry. You have to just jump in right away. You got to be ready.
Damn.
Yeah, Josh. Don't be shook, man.
Yeah.
I'd be shook if I was playing against Sato, but not against you, man.
Honestly, dude, I haven't played in like 6 months. I don't mind saying. So who knows? You could probably wreck me right now. I'm not sure.
Ooh, shit. Okay. Well, we're definitely making this happen because I'm already getting hype about it. But with that being said, we will let Matt get back to his regularly scheduled programming. Once again, thank you so much, Matt.
No worries. Thanks, guys.
All right, thank you.
Take care.
Wow. That was good.
Man, what to say?
Yeah.
There's so much to say. I feel like when we talk to Matt, I said this already, but I do learn a lot. Like he has a lot of knowledge.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate when you throw him curveballs. He like hits them out of the park.
Yeah. That Kenny S section, you should probably like do a feature on.
Oh, that's a good idea, Dennis. Thank you for thinking of it.
It's almost like I was already going to do that, Dennis. Wow.
Also, that last comment, he reminded me. I think I had read this, but I forgot about Dupree taking over the. That's hype because I fucking love Dupree.
I actually like not to like second guess him or
No,
anything,
no.
but when Device was on break, wasn't the Zipnix on op and he was like killing it, or at least there was like the highlight reel. I don't know.
I'm trying to think of Epicenter. Like that was one of the ones that Device wasn't there. Wasn't it Dupree who had that unreal op collateral 2K through the smoke with I can't remember the other team defusing the bomb? Like that was Dupree, right? I'm pretty sure.
I don't remember.
So that kind of I feel like that means he was on, but yeah. Memory's not as good as Sadicus, unfortunately. But we'll see. I'm definitely hyped for that. It's really nice to see. I almost said Device back.
I think myself and I'm sure a lot of other fans just want to see Astralis back at full strength.
Yeah.
Here.
Yeah, hell yeah.
More than anything. And if this is what's going to work best for them right now, then that's awesome.
Yeah.
I want to see a good, strong Astralis performance here.
A strongless.
A strong lit.
We don't want to see that Botstralis, right? Botstralis. All right. Well, with that said, we should probably wrap this up because I gotta go run up to the whiteboard and put Sadicus' prediction up there. You know, pretty cool that it aligns with mine. You know, no big deal. Just caster.
Wait, didn't he say Gambit though?
Oh yeah, he did say Gambit. Fuck.
It doesn't align with yours.
He said FaZe was the clear obvious favorite, which is like objectively so true. Yeah.
Wait, he said don't sleep on Gambit.
He did say that.
I think we have to take Gambit.
What do you mean we have to take Gambit?
Like as his selection. I don't think.
Oh yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah,
I was wrong. No, you're right, and I was wrong. I was totally wrong. I was gonna dirty it.
Okay, that's
Yo, you have that on the record. You can just have that as like your alarm.
Oh yeah,
you're right. I was wrong.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that as soon as we're done here. Gonna clip it out in post, and when I wake up, it's just gonna be Colin telling me that he was wrong and I was right. So
well, it doesn't happen often. So when it does, you've got to.
It's gonna happen a lot more often now. Record it, replay it. It's gonna happen a lot more often now, buddy.
Why is that?
Because I'm gonna hear it all the time.
Oh, I see. All right. Well, that was an awkward ending as ever, as we usually do here.
Do you want to do the Yoda voice again before we go?
Okay, I think I do because last time I did it, there was a guy in the comment section who was hype about it, so I'm going to do it.
Okay, go. Say something about the major.
E-League major coming up. FaZe up.
Yeah, Yoda would definitely rep FaZe.
I think they're a Jedi team for sure.
Even though he's green, I think like if you look at that, it's like a Jedi Council of Counter-Strike.
And
really.
Palpatine would be like on 100 Thieves corner, you know, being like, do it. Unlimited power.
Jesus.
I will. It's
Okay,
Okay,
Duwato.
that's good.
Duwato.
okay.
No,
Duwato.
Wait,
no,
wait.
no.
One more.
No.
One more. Oh, we just signed 100 Thieves. We just signed Immortals. They have visas. Is that legal? I will make it legal. That's Palpatine as commissioner of E-League.
It's treason then.
It's treason then.
And with that,
Galactic trees.
I think it's time to say goodbye.
I think it was time to say goodbye about 5 minutes ago. To be totally.
I
real
did
with you.
prompt the Yoda thing. I apologize to our listeners and viewers for
It's
that.
all your fault.
But there was somebody in the comments who liked it. I like to respond to comments in the other videos that I do. So
Fair
thought
enough.
maybe I'd get you involved a little bit, Colin. Really get you feeling that community interaction.
I appreciate that. And if you're in the comments right now and you think that the host, is cringe and you want me fired, please comment that. You know, I want the honest feedback. And with that, I think we'll wrap it up, guys. Thank you so much for listening or watching the Score Esports podcast. We'll be back next week, of course, with another episode. For that guy, Dennis Gonzalez, and for Josh Burry, I am Colin McNeil saying until next time, GG.